Hello students, I'm Aanchal Sharma, your educator. In this video, we are going to discuss about eutrophication. This is another topic from your unit, that is environment, and we are going to discuss about the process of eutrophication. We are also going to discuss few questions related to it that have been asked in the paper. So this is basically what the few lines about eutrophication and the process of how it happens. So eutrophication derives from the Greek word, and this word is called as the eutrophis. It actually means nourishment, or it means to become enriched. So whenever we see that the water body is turning too much green in color and it is not that visible, the water is this shows that the water is not visible and there is a bloom of algae in there. Right, this means that the water is not fit and tidy to be consumed. Right, this means that this process of excess of the blooming of algae is called as the eutrophication. But why do we see that the water body turns green in color like this? It is always because of the excess of nutrients that are being added. It can be because of some artificial activities, or you can say it can be because of anthropogenic activities, or it can be because of the natural circumstances as well. Or it can be because of the natural circumstances also. So eutrophication refers to the addition of artificial or non-artificial substances such as nitrates or phosphates into the water. It can be added through the fertilizers because of the excess usage of fertilizers, or it can be because of the sewage activities, and these activities can turn your fresh water into a foul type of water. It can be anthropogenic or it can be natural. It leads to increase in the primary productivity of the water body, that are primary productivity of the water body, or you call it as the blooming of the phytoplankton. So when there is excess blooming of the algae, you call it as eutrophication. The overgrowth increases the loss of oxygen, the dissolved oxygen that is present in the water. You see that because of this, the demand will be increased of the oxygen, and of course the oxygen that would be needed by the organisms that are there, they will get less amount of oxygen. So the overgrowth causes the loss of oxygen in the water body, leading to what? Leading to severe reductions in fish and the other animal and the other flora and fauna that are there. So other animal populations or your fishes that are there will be affected because the dissolved oxygen that is there would go down. So the demand of oxygen by these animals, by the flora and fauna that is present, will increase, but the dissolved oxygen would reduce in the water. So this is how the water looks like. This greenish color substances that are present there are nothing but algae bloom. They are harmful. Why? Because it never lets the water body breathe properly. It never lets the flora and fauna that are there to breathe and grow properly, because the oxygen would be cut here. You'll see that the sunlight won't pass, so the process of photosynthesis cannot happen properly, and the water bodies or the flora and the fauna that are available, that are living near, or you can say at the shallow bottom of the rivers or the lakes, would ultimately die, and mostly it would be because of the algae bloom that is present here. So you can see, look at this diagram. So you see that of course there are this growth of algae bloom, and because of this algae bloom, the heat would be trapped or would be bounced back, and it won't go downstairs, right? It won't be able to penetrate into the water that is present here. Also, we see that there can be excess amount of nitrates and phosphates that can lead to the growth of algae. So it can be added through different processes, like there can be leaching. So this is one process. Also, it can be what? It can be that the fertilizers are present there, and because of this leaching, these fertilizers are entering into the water. So these fertilizers can increase the amount of nitrates and phosphates, and we know that they are good as fertilizers, but because of this water logging, or you can say because of the excess amount of water that was given there, these just seep down into the oceans or into the lakes. They can also be added into the groundwater, and through that groundwater it can be added into the water. Another process can be that these excess amount of nitrates and phosphates are added because of the industries that are present there. So because of this, the waste disposal from the industry can also increase the amount of your nitrates and phosphates. When the amount of nitrates and phosphates in the water increases, then the water becomes murky, and because of this we see that there is excess algae bloom that is present. So whenever we see that there is the sunlight coming, it cannot pass through here. Why? Because there is a thick layer of algae bloom here, and the dissolved oxygen would be reduced here. Why? Because the flora and the fauna are not receiving the oxygen properly, and it is being consumed only by the algae, right? So because of this, the problems can occur. Now there can be some natural factors, there can be some anthropogenic factors also. What are these anthropogenic activities? Anthropogenic activities or causes are what? These are the human-made activities that can cause problem in the water. So agriculture runoff, industrial runoff, residential runoff, your waste can also be added from different homes. Also recreational activities can increase the amount of waste and can cause eutrophication. Also, according to the natural causes, also there can be increase in the algae bloom. So there can be the geochemical cycles that are present, then there can be some sedimentation dynamics that can change, and because of this the nitrates and phosphates can increase. Also groundwater seepage is one example, and there are some natural runoffs. All of these can increase the amount of phosphates and can increase the amount of nitrates in the water and can cause the deterioration of the water. Because of this, algae bloom would be there, and the water bodies that are present there, the population that is present there underneath the water, they can eventually die. So algae bloom, especially harmful algae blooms that are called as the HABs, can release the cyanotoxins in the water and can cause a lot of problems. When there is algae bloom, another set of problems are also associated with it. Like, of course, there will be less amount of photosynthesis process and the flora and fauna living there would die. But there will be the other toxins that would also be produced. So these toxins can also be harmful for the population living there or breathing the air that is containing these kinds of toxic substances. Also, the recreational value of these lakes will go down when there is a thick layer of algae on the water surface. So uncontrolled growth of these planktons, sediment deposits, accumulation of organic and inorganic pollutants can lead to the process of eutrophication. So the hypotoxic condition causes the deterioration of the water quality, and this will decrease the survival rates of the aquatic plants or animals that are living there. The loss of ecosystem services is also seen. When they cannot make their own food, then the problem arises. Eutrophication accelerates the rapidly when the high nutrients from the fertilizers, from the domestic waste or the industrial waste or the urban drainage, some detergents or some animal sediments are entering into the water streams. So this process of eutrophication will increase when there are excess amount of nutrients that are present there. Some nutrients are very important, but when excess amount of nutrients are there in the water, then there can be a lot of problem. So eutrophication can basically be divided into two ways, or you can say it can be divided into two types. One can be natural and the other is cultural. So what is a natural eutrophication? Very simple. In natural eutrophication, a lake is characterized by the nutrient enrichment it has. During this process, the oligotrophic lakes, these are the different types of lakes that we have already done in the class, and this is a PYQ as well. Please write it in the comment section also. What is the meaning of oligotrophic? What is the meaning of eutrophic lakes? Also tell me in which type of lake most clear amount of water is seen. So, coming back to the point, during this process, the oligotrophic lakes is converted into the eutrophic lake. It permits the production of what? Production of different types of algae, and this algae would bloom. Because of excess amount of nutrients, excess amount of aquatic vegetation can also be blooming there, and because of this, the other flora and fauna would suffer. So it permits the production of the phytoplectons, algae blooms, aquatic vegetation that in turn provides ample food for the herbivores, zooplankton and fishes. And gradually the oxygen that they would use would be increasing, and when they will increase all the usage of oxygen, the other flora and fauna would suffer. Then comes your cultural process. So when the process of eutrophication is increased by the human activities, we call it as the cultural eutrophication. This is because of the human activities, mainly development in the nature that is being done. It increases the surface runoff and the nutrients that are present there. So phosphates, nitrates are supplied to the ocean water, and because of this, because of the natural substances, when it is called as the natural eutrophication. Because of human activities, when it is done, we call it as cultural eutrophication. They may be supplied by different construction works that are present there, treatment plants, golf course, fertilizers, farmers, etc. Human activities are responsible for the addition of about 80% nitrogen and 75% of phosphorus that is seen in the lakes and the streams. So because of the reckless consumption and reckless production that we are doing, or you can say because of the industrialization, we are hampering the environment, and because of these anthropogenic activities, we see that the water bodies need to suffer. Eutrophication causes the several physical, chemical, biological changes, and it will deteriorate the quality of the water. It creates algae bloom. It releases toxic chemicals that can kill the other fish, the birds or the migratory birds that are present there. It can also cause harm to the other aquatic animals. The decomposition of algae bloom leads to the depletion of oxygen in the water. So this itself is a PYQ. You need to learn this. When there is excess amount of algae bloom, this will lead to depletion of the oxygen in the water. So the dissolved oxygen would go down when there is excess amount of eutrophication. Thus, with a high CO2 level, poor oxygen will will cause the reduction of the flora and fauna in the water. Several prevention and different devices can be used. So there can be controlling of the eutrophication. How? So several prevention and technical devices can be used to prevent the process of eutrophication. The wastewater must be treated before it is discharged into the water streams. So you need to take different steps. There can be different measures to treat the water. One most important step that you should be taking is not to add the water that is not fit to be added. So we discussed the wastewater management. What if we are adding the water that has excess amount of nitrates already present in it? What if in a factory we were manufacturing something, and because of this the water that I was using has excess amount of nitrates or phosphorus, and I just added the water directly to the water body? Because of this, there can be excess amount of nitrates or phosphates that are present in the water, which can in turn cause the other problems in the water and eutrophication. So it is advisable that you first treat the water and then add it to the water bodies. Recycling of nutrients can be checked through the different harvests. Removing nitrogen and phosphorus at the source is very important. Division of the nutrient-rich waters from receiving bodies and the dilution of these elements can minimize the eutrophication. Also, algae bloom should be removed upon their death and decomposition. Limiting the dissolved nutrients can control the algae growth. So it is very advisable to remove the algae if it is dead. The most suitable and the feasible and the most effective method is the using of the chemicals. It can also be what? The chemicals to precipitate the additional phosphorus. So you can use different amounts of chemicals so that the algae can die. The precipitates like the alum can be used here, or lime can be used. So you can use lime, you can use alum, you can use iron. The sodium aluminate can also be used. These physiochemical methods can be used so that the excess amount of nutrients can be removed. Also, electrolysis, reversal of osmosis, or ion exchange are few methods that are also used. So these are also important. This can do what? This can in turn be used and the algae would die. You can just take off the algae and the water would become fit to at least stay there, and the flora and fauna can live there respectively. So you can see this picture. So there is no eutrophication. This means that there is proper amount of growth that is present there. The flora and the fauna are happy and living there, and we have a proper amount of oxygen, dissolved oxygen, that is there. While in the process of eutrophication, you see that there are very less amount of organisms present there. There is only some substances that can survive or can can equip themselves quickly with the changing of the water and the conditions of the water that are surviving. Others would die, and properly you can see that there is less amount of oxygen also. These are the question, this is the question that was asked. So I would read the question. So, eutrophication in a water body leads to which of the following? Bloom of algae, increase in the level of dissolved oxygen, increase in turbidity or odor of the water body, difficulty in sustaining normal aquatic life, deficiency of nutrients. So, what do you think should be the correct answer? Which of these, I would read, eutrophication in the water body will lead to which of these? So these are the options in front of you. Let us see the answer. The answer is C. That means A, C and D are correct. Let us see how. So of course I told you eutrophication will cause what? Eutrophication means that there are excess amount of nitrates, phosphorus and other nutrients that are present there. This means that this will in turn increase the growth of algae. So A is definitely correct. So wherever there is no A option present, you can strike them out. So this is one way that can be done. Another, then let us read further. Increase in the level of dissolved oxygen. I just now told you that there is dissolved oxygen and all the flora and fauna need this oxygen to live. But when there is excess amount of algae, algae would use that oxygen to decompose itself. This means that the dissolved oxygen present in the water will reduce. It will decrease and not increase. So it will decrease. So this statement goes wrong. So wherever there is B, you can strike it out as well. Hence we already get, we receive our answer. It is A, C and D. But let us read further. So increase in the turbidity and odor of the water bodies. Yes, very much true. As I told you, there will be foul smell coming from it. And what is turbidity? Turbidity is the cloudness that you see in the water. So there should be less amount of turbidity in the water. So there will be increased turbidity. Yes. There will be increased foul smells. Yes. Then difficulty in sustaining normal aquatic life. Yes, the normal aquatic life would start to deteriorate. So this becomes the right answer. And deficiency of nutrients? No. Whenever we see that there is increase in the nutrients, then there is the process of eutrophication. So this becomes, C becomes your right answer. What is to be gained here? And they have already asked this statement also so many times. You should know whenever there is eutrophication, there is always increase, there is always decrease in the dissolved oxygen in the water, right? So you should remember this point. Another question, very simple, with reference to eutrophication, which of the following statements are correct? It is a phenomenon of nutrient enrichment in water body. It depletes the dissolved oxygen in water. So what do you think is the right option? Only A is correct, only B. Both A and B are correct, and neither A or B is correct. So let us see. C is the right answer. Both A and B are correct. And this is a very simple question again. The phenomenon of nutrient enrichment in the water is itself called as eutrophication. This means A is correct. And it also depletes the dissolved oxygen, the DO, that is present in the water. So A and B both are correct and C becomes the right answer. Right? Let us quickly see what is the different things that we covered in the video. So what is eutrophication? Eutrophication is the excess amount of nutrients that are present in the water. Eutrophication is basically coming from this Greek word eutrophis, which means that there are excess amount of nutrients and enrichment. This will do in turn what? This will increase the productivity, the blooming of the algae that is present in the water, and this will see that this will also cause the loss of the oxygen from the water. So your dissolved oxygen, DO, will reduce. This is a picture of algae bloom, as I told you, and these are the different causes. Then these are the effects that can be caused. So there can be natural causes, there can be anthropogenic causes, and because of all of these causes, there are the nutrient enrichment. The proper nutrient content will be disbalanced. Because of this, there will be HABs present in the water. That is the harmful algae blooms. These harmful algae bloom would release toxic substances and can cause problem. Also, to decompose, they will use the dissolved oxygen present in the water. Because of this process, the dissolved oxygen that was to be used by the ecosystem that was present there in the water, beneath it won't be able to survive properly because their dissolved oxygen is used by the algae that is blooming at the top of the water. Also, these water bodies, these flora and fauna won't be able to survive as the sunlight won't be able to reach or penetrate into the lower surface. Because of this also, the water temperature would change. Also, fishes are few substances that cannot tolerate the excess changing of the water. This can also cause a lot of problem. Also, sunlight does not reach. Hence, you see that there is a lot of darkness that is present inside the water body. So, this can also cause the other flora and fauna around there to survive a lot. This can also cause problem to the migratory bodies because the water is becoming, migratory birds, because the water is becoming foul. So, whenever they consume the water, they can die. This will hamper the recreational activities that the people do there. The value of that lake also deteriorates. The beauty and the aesthetic value also reduces. The other people that are living there will breathe the toxic substances that are released by the decomposition of the algae. All of these are the problems that are associated with the process of eutrophication, right? So I hope you understood whatever I told you in this short video that I had for you. I hope you are revising the things as well. If you have any doubt, you can write it in the comment section and I'll surely reply to you. Thank you.